Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Alison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome to your Cosmic Energy Report for July 14th to 20th, 2025. This week in the Astro-HD and other cycles of time, we have retrograde. So, coming off of last week's Uranus in Gemini and full moon in Capricorn transits, I'm just curious how those played out for you. I definitely know it was an intense week in lots of ways, lots of changes in the air, lots of kind of frenetic energy, as well as like this Saturnian desire and kind of assignment to work hard and get your shit together. And so those kind of are a little bit of conflicting larger energies in the field right now. We have Saturn just went retrograde over last weekend, and so Saturn was the ruler of last week's full moon. And Saturn is the lord of karma. Saturn is the kind of big daddy of time and the boundaries of the solar system, the visible solar system. And Saturn is here to say, okay, like it's time to put in the work in this midsummer season. And then also Uranus and Gemini, this major outer planetary transit that'll last for 7 years, is really shaking things up. And so it's kind of hard to know where to put the work, where to put one foot in front of the other, in which direction, because everything's kind of being like blown to the wind. And so that's kind of the vibes from last week. Last week's full moon was in my 6th house of work and daily routine and health, and it was opposite the sun in my 12th house of the subconscious. So I kind of took the assignment to balance the ambition in my daily life with new beginnings in my subconscious and mental patterning. My kid was at summer camp, and I've been homeschooling over the past year and haven't really had too much time. I'm kind of squeezing things in around the edges. So this few hours at summer camp every day was a huge opening and awareness about how much time I spend in mom mode, and to have a few solid hours to myself felt great. And it was filled completely with work and working out and spreadsheets and chatting about 5-year plans and, kind of all of that big Capricorn kind of climb the mountain type of stuff. So how about you? How did that full moon show up for you last Thursday? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. This week, we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Leo on Friday, so the forecast is reiterating the solar system's ongoing message for us to slow down, stay humble, and embark on the revisions that we need to make in our lives before everything plunges full speed ahead once again, as it always does. Mercury in Gatorade, Mercury retrograde gets all the attention, but currently there's 3 other planets that are also perceptively spinning backward across the zodiac. Like I said, Saturn stationed retrograde in Aries last weekend, and Neptune the week before that. And Pluto has been retrograde in Aquarius since May. So all of those outer planets that I was talking about in last week's episode that are forming that kind of minor grand trine, that triangle aspect to each other, with Pluto trining Uranus, and then both Pluto and Uranus trining Neptune and Saturn right in the middle there is that midpoint. All of those are now all retrograding except Uranus. And so retrogrades do encourage us to take a beat from our usual programming. And this is all retrogrades. They're all station retrograde and go through the retrograde motion across a part of the sky that they've already traveled. They're doing that to kind of encourage us to do all of the re-activities, which are like reflect, reassess, review, revise, reconnect, remember, reimagine, recalibrate, realign, rework, restore, retreat, release, renegotiate, reframe, reclaim, reorganize, revisit, reevaluate, recommit, reprocess, reconfigure, rewild, rewrite, reattune, reinhabit, recharge, and reorient. So that's all I got on the reads, and there's probably more, but they're all relevant. There's a theme to all of those words, from retreat to recalibration. It's about going backwards. It's about looking at what has just happened and integrating it into our systems in a little bit deeper of a way than when we're just putting one foot in front of the other. So this might be the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of energy that can feel frustrating for sure, especially with that Mercury, who's a fast moving planet and retrogrades about 3 times a year. You know, there's definitely some slowdowns that aren't really welcomed in our culture. And now with all of these planets in retrograde motion, there's a lot of these reviewing and reassessings and revisitings to do. And what these particular planetary retrogrades are inviting in regards to all of these re's is Neptune retrograde. Neptune's going to be retrograding through the signs of Aries into Pisces, so beginning of Aries into the late degrees of Pisces, in Aries from July 4th to October 22nd, and then continuing back through Pisces until December 10th before turning direct. So a fairly long retrograde for Neptune. And that retrograde is inviting a deep inward journey, kind of clarifying which dreams hold weight in our souls and which dreams might be just kind of smoke and mirrors. And so there's kind of a sorting of dream energy with Neptune retrograde in Aries. And for the first part is how that relates to the part of our chart that contains Aries and the Aries themes of drive and assertion and what we're willing to fight for. So kind of a review as far as our dreams on that regard. And then going back into Pisces, it's revisiting that part of your chart where it's spent the last 11 years, and it's kind of the final final culmination there. And in Pisces, it is at home. Neptune is the planet of dreams, and Pisces is the sign that is all about dreams and the subconscious. And so it's going back into those parts of your chart that talk about kind of our dreams as they relate to completions of cycles. Pisces is the end of the zodiac, so Neptune going back into Pisces will be wrapping up the final part of the zodiac and what dreams we've held in that last cycle. Saturn retrograde in Aries, also retrograding from Aries into Pisces from July 13th to November 27th of this year. It's in Aries until September 1st and then continues back through Pisces until November 27th before turning direct. Saturn retrograde is a pause in structural momentum and urges honest reassessment of your boundaries, your commitments, and your long-term plans. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, which has been from May 4th through October 13th of this year, is this outer planetary. Pluto is a generational planet, kind of influencing the transpersonal. But Pluto here in retrograde is kind of reviewing the slow transformation of collective power dynamics and subconscious patterns that are in our culture and society. And so that retrograde is having us look at this first pass through Aquarius, look at how the underworld and the excavation of all things ruled by Aquarius, from technology to humanitarianism to power to the people to futurism, all of these things are kind of getting a little bit of a review and reconsideration at this point until October before it moves on forward, and who knows what's coming then. But then finally we have Mercury retrograde, and that's in Leo this year at this one, and from July 18th to August 11th, fully in Leo, not going between signs. And Mercury retrograde always brings themes of miscommunication and tech glitches and second chances. So we can use this retrograde to reboot recent ideas or reconnect with overlooked details perhaps. And it's a bold retrograde in the sign of Leo. It's something that Leo likes to be on stage, so this retrograde might be a little more on display than some others. Also this week, we have the sun transiting through the Human Design, I Ching, and Gene Keys Gate of Details, and that's starting Sunday, July 13th, moved into the Gate of Details. So paying attention to the details sounds right on cue as we collectively navigate the retrogrades re-themes. And the Gate of Details is the final full gate of Cancer season, kind of helping us ground all that feeling that's been stirred up, all those deep, deep emotions that have been stirred up during Cancer season. The Gate of Details is this kind of final energy of Cancer, kind of bringing those details into language and into form. So next week, we will travel into Leo season, and the sun will be moving into the wandering storyteller energy of the Cancer Leo cusp gate 56, which is the gate of stimulation. And that's happening on Saturday. So we're moving on through the wheel of the year. We're in the medicine wheel direction south, the whooshing 5-element Taoist cycle of fire, the pagan season of Litha or midsummer as we edge towards Lammas, the holy day that is the cross-quarter holy day that is within Leo season. The zodiac season is Cancer until July 20th, and again, the Human Design and I Ching hexagrams of the week are from Sunday, July 13th to Friday, July 18th. We're in Gate 62, known as Thunder over Mountain, or small exceeding, also known as preponderance of the small, the Gate of Details. And then from Saturday, July 19th through Thursday, July 24th, the sun moves into Gate 56, Fire over Mountain, which is the Wanderer, aka the Gate of Stimulation. We're in a waning moon phase, and Mercury stationing retrograde this week. Speaking of the waning moon, I had an incredible experience last night where I heard an owl hooting outside my window, and I couldn't tell how far away it was, but it was a really beautiful kind of haunting sound. And I went outside, and there was just this incredible kind of glowing circle around the waning moon. It still looks pretty full, but there was this really beautiful glowing circle. And I was looking around to see where I could find the owl, standing kind of in my front walkway under this spruce tree. And I kind of looked around thinking it was a little bit further away, and then it made its beautiful call, and it was directly above me in the tree where I could see it, a great horned owl. And it was just this beautiful sound with the moon kind of shining with that ring through the spruce tree. And the owl was having a conversation with an owl on the other side of the neighborhood in my neighbor's tree. So it was this back and forth call that I spent about, I don't know, like half an hour outside just under this owl, connecting with its presence and hearing this conversation between an owl, kind of a distant owl, and an owl that was right in front of me. And it was really just a powerful moment. Just this incredibly clear, beautiful, beautiful moonlight. And it felt like this kind of threshold moment. It felt really relevant to the themes of this week of all of the review and reconsideration where owls can see at night. Owls are this bird that is awake at night. And the retrograde periods are all kind of about trends going through the dark. They're all about moving through the darkness, through the shadows, through the parts of life that are not having a light shined brightly on them. And so the owl showing up last night felt like a beautiful omen in a certain way. And I know owls in certain cultures and histories are not good omens, but I believe that the owl at this moment was an omen about talking to your inner self, talking to my inner self, having a conversation with the kind of louder call and the quieter call, and these two different sides. Maybe the human design, it could be the personality and the design or unconscious sides of yourself. Having these two owls have this conversation, it was about seeing in the darkness, being able to operate through the unseen realms. And so I just thought it was really beautiful and wanted to share that with you. But this week, let's move on to the details, the Gate of Details. This is Monday through Friday with the sun in Gate 62. And I always think of, when I hear the word details, I just think of God is in the details and the devil is in the details. It's really, there's both of those. And so it's interesting to think about what your relationship is with details. What kind of feeling do you get in your body when the word details comes up? In the I Ching, hexagram 62 is known as preponderance of the small. And in the gene keys, 62 moves from the shadow of intellect to the gift of precision to the city of impeccability. And it is, again, the final gate of Cancer season. The next gate, 56, is that gate that ties together Cancer and Leo, but this is the final full gate. And it really brings form to feeling, like I said earlier. It's about really taking all of the deep feels that have come up over this season and bringing them into language, to form, to structure, and putting a kind of details to that deep emotional internal work that got stirred up during the season of the crab. And I know it did for pretty much everyone. I know it has for me. It's been an emotional season, and a hot and emotional season. So Cancer season tends to pull us into memory and family and emotional roots and ancestry and protection, what we want to protect. So gate 62 is this moment when we begin translating what we've felt and the kind of amorphous feelings and contradictions that have happened inside us into something that's speakable and something that we can carry with us into the fire of Leo season. In the I Ching, hexagram 62 is preponderance of the small, and it teaches us that the attention to the small things, are seemingly insignificant choices and minor details and just brief interactions in our life, can definitely shift the course of larger patterns. This is a gate that's kind of all about respecting the sacredness of the specific and knowing that when we honor the little things, we can build something that lasts. It's kind of like the glossary or the index in the human design system. I've mentioned this before, but gates 1 and 2 are kind of like the raw material for the entirety of the I Ching. It's the, full yang and full yin. It's the creativity and the receptivity, and then you move through all of these different combinations of trigrams to get to the final hexagrams, and 63 and 64 are kind of like the epilogue that are preparing for the next cycle. But 62 is this gate that's like being the gate of details. It is putting all of the energies of the entire wheel into a certain ordering and a certain kind of parsing out of all of the different parts that make the whole. And so in the gene keys, gate 62 evolves from the shadow of intellect through the gift of precision into the city of impeccability. So intellect, you might not always see as a shadowy thing, but this is, I think Richard Rudd says this in the Gene Keys, that it proves some of these shadow sides kind of prove that a shadow is not a bad thing and the shadow is not a darkness. It's simply a place at which we must begin an evolutionary process. And intellect is this shadow here in that it shows where we over-rely on the mind and get lost in overthinking and analysis and a need to explain everything to feel safe. But as it evolves in its higher frequencies, gate 62 becomes this embodiment of exactness that's guided by inner truth, this precision as opposed to intellect. And so the details of gate 62, it's still Cancer season after all. So these details around words are chosen with care and actions are aligned with integrity. And there's a certain clarity that's born from that devotional care that's represented by Cancer. So it is creating a glossary or an index of all the things in your life, but not for the sake of understanding or figuring it out necessarily, but for the sake of communicating it and caring for the larger picture. In the body graph, in the human design body graph, gate 62 is in the throat center, and this is the place where the unseen becomes spoken and where internal potential becomes action in the external world. It's about translating our inner knowing, our inner feelings, our emotions into outer expression, and it really centers around, what we have to say and how we say it really does matter. So this gate is it's a powerful gate, and it reminds us that what we are noticing around us, what we pay attention to, what we put to language, what we name, really shapes our reality. And that's something to contemplate this week. I think God in the details and the devil in the details are these two old sayings that really echo the tension between this putting into words, putting into details, this very vast, interconnected, deep feeling, and then saying, okay, what are we going to do about it? God is in the details really speaks to the divine presence revealed through care and attention and devotion to the small things. It's all about moving with presence and discernment in order to create harmony, and really paying attention to the small things. So that's saying that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So thinking about that this week. And then the devil is in the details, of course, is reminding us that we can also become trapped in perfectionism and paralyzed by the need to get it all right, to have everything perfect. So the mind can definitely obscure as easily as it can illuminate in this case. So holding those both in tandem this week, that God is in the details and the devil is in the details, and recognizing that there's a fine line between getting caught up in the minutia and also a necessity to pay attention to and care for the smallest members of the group, the smallest things. So Gate 62 walks this razor's edge, really. It's a voice of an analyst, an editor, coder, an oracle who names things with precision in order to create clarity. And so as Cancer season ends, this gate invites us to reflect. What have you been feeling? What has shifted inside you? And how might you now give your alchemized self shape and put it into action? And so it's a great week for writing. It's a really good week for kind of free writing and letting that formless, shapeless deepness of Cancer season, this cardinal water, this wellspring energy kind of burst out into the open. And tell others how you feel. And so it teaches us, this gate, to honor the small before reaching for the stars. And it really prepares the soil before the sun of Leo blazes through coming next week. There's a big shift in energy coming between Cancer and Leo season, I feel, where you kind of are ready to come back out into the world after that midsummer heat and get on stage a little bit. And so what you speak truth to right now matters, and distilling, it's a very distilling kind of process where you're letting the truth of what is real for you drip through in and kind of calcify. And so what you label and define and name and put words to right now becomes the map that you'll walk forward through Leo season. And the stories that you'll tell next week is the gate of this wandering storyteller, where it's all about kind of traveling through and connecting with people through your story. And so this week is about honing. We're midway through the year, a little over midway through the year, and it's about honing that beautiful emotional reality into the mental reality, and mental construct. So I feel like Cancer season is this crucible where you're able to add in the depths of your embodied understanding to the understanding that has been cultivated from charging forward through the first part of the year. So some contemplations for Gate 62 from Monday through Friday are: how can I pay more attention to the details in my thoughts, words, and actions? Notice if you're overthinking or getting lost in intellectualization, or if you're able to express your ideas with precision and clarity coming from the heart, coming from the gut, that womb space of Cancer season. Speaking truth from that place is not always easy, but it's something to think about this week. And also, how can I use my focus and attention to communicate effectively and with accuracy? So the God and the devil are in the details. Moving on to Mercury Retrograde, Thursday. This week it's Thursday and lasts through August 11th. Mercury Retrograde in Leo is all of the things you expect with Mercury Retrograde, with potential disruptions to communication, technology, travel, these things ruled by Mercury. Perhaps this year, with it being in Leo, Mercury going backwards through Leo, there's a focus on self-expression, creativity, and matters of the heart. Leo is ruled by the sun and governs our sense of identity and personal pride and the way we express ourselves. So there might be some review and recalibration and reignition when it comes to your own sense of identity and your self-expression. And that also will depend on which house in your chart it falls. But in general, Mercury retrograde in Leo is going to have something to do with how we express ourselves. And Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and Uranus has just entered Gemini. So there's this other layer of Mercury kind of being that like a little more scattered and disrupted perhaps. So this is a pretty powerful Mercury retrograde, but miscommunications and misunderstandings can always arise during retrograde periods, especially with Mercury. And so this could arise around creative projects or romantic relationships. And there may be a tendency to revisit old creative ideas or past romantic connections. Leo is the natural ruler of the fifth house, which is all about romance and creations and children and kind of what we put out into the world. And so this is something that could be asking for another look, kind of asking if we're truly shining in the way that we desire or if we need to adjust our self-presentation a little bit. Leo's associated with the heart in the body, and Leo's also associated with these kind of the roaring keys in the life cycle. And so you think about someone in their 20s being very heart-centered, like wearing their heart on their sleeve, putting themselves forward, being on the world stage. And so this retrograde through this sign is kind of about taking a look, zooming out from yourself a little bit to say, like, who's that down there? Who's that person doing these motions and these actions and on that stage, and what would help to reconsider a little bit when it comes to that kind of thing. It's definitely not the best time to launch new projects or make bold declarations or sign contracts, but Mercury retrograde is a great period to reflect and refine and adjust your approach to self-promotion and how you communicate your passions. So be mindful of potential drama or misunderstandings and try to use this time over the next month through August 11th to be a little more introspective when it comes to all things Leo. And August 11th, it will station direct, and there will also be a beautiful conjunction between Venus and Jupiter in Cancer on that same day. So August 11th is one to mark on your calendars as kind of coming out of the deep review process a little bit and being met with some benefic energy on that day. This weekend, moving right along, we're going to be in the gate of the traveling storyteller, gate 56, which is known as the gate of the wanderer in human design. It's known as the wanderer in the I Ching, fire over mountain. And in the gene keys, it moves from the shadow of distraction to the gift of enrichment, to the city of intoxication. So this weekend, we are crossing into Leo season on Tuesday, and over the weekend, it'll be the Cancer part of this gate. I think it's a really fitting closing arc to Cancer season's inner tides, where we move from gate 62 earlier in the week that kind of helps us organize our inner work into something speakable and tangible and communicable. And then right after that, gate 56, this gate of stimulation or the wanderer, invites us to kind of loosen our grip on that structure and say, like, okay, the index, the glossary is written, and now I'm going to move forward and go on a bit of an adventure where I am allowing myself to get feedback on what has been distilled from my deep personal world as I enter the much more public realm of Leo season after kind of a private Cancer season, perhaps, or a little more inward. In the I Ching, hexagram 56 is the wanderer, fire over mountain. So I love thinking about these I Ching hexagrams and just the imagery related. So for me, fire over mountain really evokes the image of a wildfire traveling quickly across a mountain, moving with speed, changing things as it goes, really influencing the world, as well as absorbing and transmuting the energy of everything that it's passing. So it carries this wisdom of the traveler who's absorbing insight along the way and then sharing stories of their quests. And it's the archetype of the storyteller, the pilgrim, the eternal student, and someone who knows that identity is shaped by the way we respond to change. In human design, gate 56 is also in the throat center, and it's expressing itself through narrative. It's 62 is in the throat center, putting words and specifics to deep wells of feelings, and gate 56 is about putting that into a story arc. So when this gate is active, we don't just wander for wandering's sake, but we're collecting impressions and sensations and ideas from others to later share and teach and inspire others with. I have several friends with this gate active in their chart as their sun gate, and I noticed that people with this gate defined tend to be just really adept, like super amazing storytellers who can communicate wisdom through personal story. And sometimes there seems to be a bit of an exaggeration, but then you realize there's not. They're just like have collected so many gems along the way and talked to so many people that their stories are embellished with just this beautiful depth. And so it is less about facts and more about deeper meaning cultivated by a good story and how that story is told. So when this gate is active, we may feel pulled to explore over the weekend. Good time to go exploring, whether it's physically going on a hike or mentally getting into some new material, a new book or something, or a new spiritual practice. Just exploration, gathering and collecting new insights through that process of getting out of our shells a little bit, and share what we're discovering in a way that enriches others, and share with the world the details that you have come to about your inner lived experience as well. In the Gene Keys, Gate 56 moves from the shadow of distraction, where we get lost in stimulation, novelty, or excessive engagement. So the gate of stimulation is what it's called. And that can be distracting when there's so much to be stimulated by. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I've been in my room writing in my journal for the past month, and now I'm ready to get out there. Leo season is here. But overstimulation can be an issue and it could be very distracting. But then if you kind of transmute past being distracted by everything, there is the gift of enrichment, where each experience and each story that we come across out in the world has a well of meaning. And because we've just put our own personal details, and we've kind of consolidated the details of our inner lived experience and what matters to us at this point in the year, we're able to meet the external world with a lot more like a web that can be threaded between the different experiences to tell that story a lot easier. It's not just a random assortment of different lives, but there's a lot of kind of synchronicity that can happen in the gate of stimulation. And the highest frequency or city is known as intoxication. And, that's not always seen as a good word, DWI kind of situation. However, intoxication is this sense when you feel intoxicated with love or with a scent. There's this, it's like a radiant state that comes when we're just fully immersed in the moment and drinking in the beauty of life itself, and then transmitting the potency of it through our words. Again, the stories that are told in people with gate 56 and with this gift of enrichment and city of intoxication, oftentimes you're hanging on the edge of your seat. You have this kind of like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm right there with you. I'm understanding this, the deep lived experience of this, and how it's connecting all of these dots together. So as the sun completes its journey through Cancer and blazes into Leo on next Tuesday, Gate 56 is really reminding us to live, to feel the feelings, to connect the dots, to allow yourself to just get into the zhuzh of life. And not everything has to make sense quite yet. It's Leo season. It's about embracing the world and going outside and trying something new and letting life speak through those synchronicities or surprises or even silliness, like just allowing yourself to get back out there. Let me know in the comments how Cancer season has been for you. It's just been a deep one because Jupiter's in Cancer as well. So this entire time that the sun's been moving through Cancer, Jupiter has also been there. And so there's been an expansion of these Cancerian themes. There's been an expansion of this inner world, belly, chest, womb kind of energy, this like adolescent kind of like inward looking kind of energy of Cancer season. And it's just been really if it's felt like a massive Cancer season. And, Jupiter will continue to transit through Cancer. So we will have that planet of expansion in Cancer ongoing throughout the next 11 months after this. And so it's not over, but having the sun and Jupiter there has it's been pretty potent. So let me know how it's shown up for you. So curious how Leo season will arrive with this new energy. And this week, just gather those details, distill the deep feels, and then go out there and see what you are attracting, see what is attracting you, and how those dots can be connected into a greater story. It's kind of, I like to think of gate 56 as just a very sensual gate where your senses are gathering the material that your inner world has been asking for. And now it's kind of your assignment, your opportunity to go out into the world and gather things. You could even go on a scavenger hunt, a intro to Leo season scavenger hunt, and go out and just find rocks, find feathers, find leaves, find bits of trash, whatever it is on the street that attract you, and kind of make a little art project out of that and see what story they tell. I actually did a workshop on creative alchemy with Marlena Seven-Bremer the other day in Santa Fe, which was an incredible experience, learning about alchemy and learning about the creative process and how it relates to the alchemical process and how it relates to astrology. If you don't know her work, she's a painter and an alchemist and does incredibly channeled divine paintings related to astrology and alchemical material. And we did an art project in that, which was created by the surrealists, where you go around with a charcoal or a crayon and a piece of paper and you just gather textures from around. So I think it's decoupage, but that might be wrong. Let me look up what that's called. But it's basically, you go around and you gather textures from making rubbings on your paper of different things in your immediate environment. And then you kind of look at that as this field and see what rises to the surface out of those textures and can create a little bit more distinction and more of a story out of what is arising through those textures. And so it's a really cool process. 1 second. Yeah, so this method was pioneered by Max Ernst, who's a prominent figure in the surrealist movement, and it's called frottage, where, you just are pushing paper on a textured surface and rubbing it with a pencil or charcoal and capturing the context of the underlying surface. And it's kind of like automatic drawing. It's a form of automatic drawing where you're bypassing your conscious thought and accessing your subconscious mind for artistic creation. And so there's just a lot of spontaneity and unpredictability that can happen in that process of art making, and it can evoke unconscious themes that come up. And so in the gate of storytelling, I really think that it's a beautiful practice to do. Just get a piece of paper and a pencil and go around and get some textures from your environment and see what story wants to come through those. Highly recommend it. So let's see here. A couple of contemplations for the gate of the weekend, gate 56, are: how can I bring more enrichment into my life by seeking new experiences and sharing my journey with others? Also, am I allowing myself to be distracted by superficial pursuits, or am I focused on deepening my understanding and enriching my life? And how can I use experiences and stories to inspire and enrich those around me? So that is it for the horoscope forecast this week. A couple of human design gates, 62 into 56, and several retrograding vibes. Yeah, the owl. Just think of seeing in the dark, looking backwards, using retrograde times not as a time to be afraid, not as a time to be annoyed that something might break down or be frustrated, but just definitely carving out some extra space for yourself over these next few months, if possible, to acknowledge and pay reverence to the importance of review and the importance of reattunement. Because if we never had that time and we just kept blindly going forward, that just wouldn't work, right? And sometimes the universe will slow us down if we're not going to work within the realms of slowing ourselves down enough. That's where those glitches and technical difficulties can show up, is when we're trying to just rush through things at the same pace. And so retrogrades in the wheel of the year always give us these times to pause and breathe a little bit. It's like the bottom of the exhale, the top of an inhale. It's a cycle. But this is a certain period of time in this year where we're being asked to retreat a little bit, renegotiate, reframe. So I hope you have a beautiful week doing that. We do have a Leo season Astro Breathwork journey coming up on Wednesday, July 30th at 5 p.m. MST. And these are monthly sessions that I'm doing to dig into the vibes and the energetics of the season, the elements, the alchemy, the human design gates, kind of all of the bits, that archetypical themes that make up a season. And then we breathe into it and embody the words in a little bit more of a subconscious way about Leo season. And the theme for Leo season is radiance, the heart-centered season of putting yourself out there and being in the world of stimulation and stimulating others with your self-expression. So that will be the theme. You can sign up on my website at astrosomatics.com, and it'll also be posted on the Substack at cyclesoftime.substack.com. And if you'd like to join these every month, as well as get a 50-page PDF about the season ahead, including all of the transits and human design gates and kind of the synthesis of the season with Astro-HD, you can join my Embody the Revolution membership for just $8 a month. It is a paid subscription model on Substack where you get that PDF detailed guidebook for each zodiac season, a monthly live breathwork journey on Zoom to tap into the energies of the season. You also get a calendar of all the astrology and human design transits of 2025 and 2026, and a chat and community sharing. So you can join as a paid subscriber on Substack. Again, I'm at cyclesoftime.substack.com. And thank you all so much for being here as we initiate Mercury Retrograde and as we wrap up Cancer season. Let all of those deep feels get distilled. Do some free writing, do some automatic drawing, or for some frottage this week. We are edging into a season of deep creativity, so let's get started with that. And I'll talk to you again next week. Sending lots of love. Bye.